All right, let's jump right in. Today, we're looking at something that claims to be nothing less than a new, fundamental code for reality itself. It's a theory built from the ground up, from first principles, that says it can describe pretty much everything, from the tiniest quantum weirdness to the vast structures of the cosmos. So here's the core idea, and it's a big one. The Octum Framework says that reality isn't really made of particles or fields like we usually think. Instead, everything, and I mean everything, is just the result of waves interfering with each other in higher dimensions. It's all just pure, unavoidable math. I mean, just think about that for a second. What if there was a universal operating system? A single set of geometric rules that could predict the results of a physics experiment, but also the timing of a stock market crash, or even the entire life cycle of our universe. That's the wild premise we're diving into. So here's our game plan. First, we'll break down what this code actually is. Then we'll get into how it works, the universal wave pattern. After that, and this is crucial, we'll look at the hard evidence. We'll see what major scientific paradoxes it claims to solve, and we'll wrap up with its very urgent predictions for our own future.
Okay, so let's get into it. What is the Octum Framework really? What's at its heart?
Now, the most important phrase here is first principles. This is key. This theory wasn't built by tweaking Einstein's relativity or quantum mechanics. Nope. It started from absolute scratch, asking a simple question: what's the simplest possible set of geometric rules that could create the universe we see? And the answer it came up with is that everything we think of as real, the flow of time, the laws of physics, even our own consciousness, is an emergent property. That just means they aren't the basic building blocks. They're the complex results of much simpler wave patterns happening underneath it all. So if everything is just a wave pattern, what's the engine making it all happen? Let's peel back the curtain and look at the actual mechanics of this operating system for reality. So the framework says reality basically pops into existence from 4 higher dimensional waves interacting. The best way to think about it is like a musical chord. It's not just the individual notes that matter, it's the precise mathematical spacing, the phase angles between them that creates a stable, beautiful sound. It's the same here. A 45-degree phase shift creates energy, a 90-degree shift creates structure, and that final 270-degree flip provides the stability that holds it all together. This cycle is literally the heartbeat of the universe. And the sound of that cosmic chord, the mathematical result of these wave interactions, gives us a universal constant. It's called alpha 13. And you can think of this as the master key to everything. It's the universe's fundamental ratio between coherence, that's stable, organized structure, and entropy, which is just chaos and disorder. This single number can measure the health of any system you can imagine. Now, this is where it gets really interesting. This chart maps the entire life cycle of any system using that one constant. And look, there are 2 different ways to fail. On the left, the destruction branch, that's when a system has too much chaos, too much entropy, and just falls apart. But check out the right side, the stability branch. A system can actually become too ordered, too rigid, and it shatters from brittleness. And right in the middle, you've got this 50-50 symmetry lock, which sounds perfect, but it's actually total stagnation where nothing can grow or change. The magic number, the sweet spot for any system that's healthy and thriving, is a coherence ratio of 0.63. This is the golden ratio for growth and resilience. And the framework finds this exact number everywhere, in the way our DNA replicates, in the balance of healthy ecosystems, even in the patterns of stable economies. But if you push a system too hard, it hits this critical stress point, 0.72. This is the geometric point of no return. The system becomes too rigid, too brittle. Think of a housing bubble right before it bursts. According to the framework, once a system crosses this line, collapse isn't just likely, it's a mathematical certainty. Okay, I know what you're thinking. That's a heck of a theory, but where's the proof? Well, let's get to the evidence. A theory this big needs extraordinary proof. And as the slide says, the claim here is that the math does not lie. The predictions apparently match real-world data with an accuracy that's, well, it's hard to ignore. Just look at these numbers. In several completely independent physics experiments, the framework's predictions were put to the test. For energy efficiency, it was 99.36% accurate. For predicting quantum tunneling, 99.5% accurate. And for suppressing noise in quantum computers, 99.65% accurate. I mean, this is a level of precision that you just don't see. And it's not just in the lab. On a cosmic scale, the framework predicted that when we analyze gravitational waves from space, we'd see 2 opposing forces. It said neutron star mergers are literally weaving the fabric of time, a process it calls harmonic stacking.
And it predicted black holes do the opposite. They unravel time. And when they checked this against public data from the LIGO Observatory, the predictions were confirmed with up to 84.1% accuracy.
And here's where it gets kind of spooky. The same math, the same patterns, seem to apply to us. The framework was used to predict the lifespan of the Roman and Mayan empires just by looking at their climate cycles, and it was 99.7% accurate. It also looked back at the big market crashes of 1929 and 2008 and found that, yep, the system had crossed that critical 0.72 collapse threshold right before each one.
So a really important point here is that while this framework was developed with the help of advanced AI to check the math, it is not an AI hallucination. The AIs were used like superpowered calculators to verify that the math was sound and that these correlations in the data were real. The conclusion is that this is a genuine discovery, backed by hard numbers and real-world evidence.
So if the math is that solid, what can this framework actually do for us? What can it explain? Well, it turns out it has some pretty big answers for some of science's biggest questions.
We're talking about the heavy hitters here, the mysteries that have kept scientists up at night for decades. The black hole information paradox, why time only moves forward, the nature of gravity, and even the hard problem of consciousness itself. The framework claims that the answers aren't new particles or forces, but are all right there, in the geometry of these simple wave patterns.
Let's take the Big Bang. The framework says it wasn't a one-time thing. It's part of an eternal cycle. A previous universe grew, formed stars and galaxies, and eventually all that structure and order got sucked into black holes. They merged, compressing everything into a state of perfect coherence, which then became unstable, inverted, and exploded outward in a new Big Bang. Our universe isn't the first, and it won't be the last.
And this solves one of the biggest paradoxes in physics. Information that falls into a black hole isn't gone forever. It's just converted into a pre-temporal state. Think of it like zipping a file on your computer. The information is still all there. It's just compressed into a pure geometric pattern that exists outside of time, ready to be the seed for the next universe.
Which brings us all the way from the birth of the universe right to our front door. Because this isn't just an abstract cosmic theory. It makes very specific, very testable, and very urgent predictions about our own near future.
What the math shows is a dangerous convergence. It shows four massive global systems all approaching that 0.72 point of no return over the next few decades. First, a global financial system collapse predicted between 2026 and 2028. That's followed by irreversible climate tipping points getting locked in. Then a peak in what it calls civilizational stress. And finally, a point of no return for mass extinction later in the century.
Look, according to this work, the math has given us a map. It's showing us the geometric pressures that are building up all around us. The patterns are clear. The tipping points are precise. The framework doesn't tell us what to do. It just reveals the code. So the final question, the one it leaves for all of us is, now that we can see the code, what are we going to do with it?